through OS 10 and iOS 8. At any point you've got any questions, as we do regularly when we do these operating system ones, do interject. I might say I'm getting to that in a minute, or I might say I don't know and ask someone else. So this is Yosemite. It looks, one of the main features about it is it looks quite different to previous versions. From right down to very subtle small things that you probably won't notice, to some quite dramatic things. Everything has been given an entirely new lick of paint, and in fact it's one of their main marketing points behind it is how different it looks. So there's a different system font, for example. I can't remember what the old system font used to look like, but there is a new font in the system. All of the icons, all of the Mac icons have been modified. Some of them, like Safari, now looks exactly the same as the iOS icon. Contacts is now slightly different to what it was. They kind of fit into one of kind of 4 categories. They've cleaned it up really, really, really nicely. I think it looks really quite nice. There are some issues with it, and with some people, in some people's opinion, and I'll get to those in a second. But while we're still on the look, the things like the windows have a little bit of a transparency. So when you start to scroll up, you can see the things that. Not when I'm projecting. So, my Mac is a 2011, 2011? Yeah, 2010 I think. 2010. Yeah, 2010 MacBook Air, which is great. It's wonderful. I don't need a new one. It works perfectly well. But obviously it's 4 years old, and so it's coming to that kind of issue where it's not a problem, it just doesn't get all the whizzy-bangy new features. And evidently, as I've just found out, the transparency doesn't work when it projects, because obviously that's quite a graphic intense thing. So if you can imagine, when this scroll, I'll see if it works in Safari. I tested it. There you go. So it works in Safari, not in Finder. So anyway, so the toolbars, the bits around the top, have a kind of slight transparency to them, which you can't see particularly well on the projector, but certainly if you've got a Mac and you want to have a look at the screen later on, come and have a look at mine, when you're moving up and through things, the background changes. So you can see this has gone red, and as you scroll up, it gets a little hint of blue and a little hint of yellow over here. That's had kind of mixed responses, I think it's fair to say. It's had a kind of, some people think it's really quite nice. It gives your content a place. It shows what you're scrolling through. Other people find it distracting. It makes it look muddy. I mean, if you just look, watch this top corner as I'm scrolling up and down, there's a kind of continuous change. Some people argue that it affects usability a little bit. So, if your backdrop is a bright white colour, for example, it affects maybe the readability of text. Apple do have a bit of a tendency to do this. When they do a design shift, like they did with iOS 7, they do tend to try and push the pendulum really quite far in one particular direction, and then in the next few iterations it gets a little bit softer and a little bit softer and a little bit softer. But certainly Yosemite's change has been a bit mixed. Calendar, which we're big calendar users, as you've spoken about before, has had a change, and for the good. I think it's a really nice... I'm moving so you don't read too many contacts. It's a really nice view. It works really well. There's a new day view, which I can show you. I think today. There's a really nice little day view that shows you what's going on the day and what else is happening. So at the moment we're right in the middle of an Examug meeting, which is good. So it's a nice few little visual updates. Anyone got any comments on those of you that have updated? Anybody got any comments on the visual style?
Well, not visual style, but I've got a slight worry in as far as I've got two 24-inch iMacs, photographs on both of them, and I decided to put Yosemite on the one I use least, and when I went to look at the photographs, they weren't in iPhoto. So I had kittens and then decided to look in Aperture and found they were all there. Now, I don't know whether I'd put them in Aperture earlier and put on, but I'm now very concerned about putting Yosemite on the other iMac that I use more.
Yeah.
It's combined two libraries, isn't it?
It wouldn't have. I don't think it would have affected it at all. I think.
You don't think so?
I have to chat to John during the break, because that might be. I mean, the thing about an operating system update is there's always that balance of do you need to? Is there a feature that you would really like? And if there isn't a feature that you really like, or that you kind of need for whatever that may mean, then it's often worth waiting just a little bit to iron out the kinks, because they've beta tested it, they've had it in store, but nothing is like having whatever it is, millions of people using it at home to iron out the kinks. So often, the .1 update, which isn't out yet, is it? The .1 update will have lots and lots of bug fixes, lots and lots of smoothing, and it should sort out a few of the, maybe some of the teething problems that people have had. Certainly, another member's emailed me with an issue that they've had in upgrading to Yosemite. I haven't had any issues at all, but I did, for the first time, wait until I came back. I was going on a school trip, and I needed to take my laptop for work, so rather than upgrade straight away, I waited until I got back, and I haven't had any problems, but I'm still glad that I did that. There was also an issue of app compatibility, and there's a fantastic website we've talked about before called Roaring Apps, roaring like the lion, and you type in any app and it will tell you if there are any known issues with Yosemite. So if there's a particular app you need that's odd, you know, if these are the apps that you use and you love and you want to continue to use them, if you're not sure about one or you've heard about something, you can just type it into Roaring Apps, and it will tell you if there are any either recognised bugs, any known bugs, any potential issues, and it might again just cause you to hold off. The couple of issues that
Sorry, Graham. One thing about not updating is that if you leave updating too long, so for instance, if you decide that actually Yosemite isn't where you want to go, but you want to go to Mavericks. If you go to the App Store, no, you can't buy Mavericks.
Oh, I see.
So if you haven't already bought it, you wouldn't be able to get it. You'd have to go to Yosemite. So don't leave things too late.
A couple of yeah, that's an excellent point. A couple of other little bits about usability. This screen is one that's come up before. This is a settings screen, and one of the potential issues is that this is what it means by usability. This screen is perhaps less usable than it was before, and you might not be aware until I point it out to you. But basically, it's what's calling for my attention. What am I doing at the moment? I'm searching. But what's interesting is there's a load of different blues here that all kind of say, click me, click me, click me. It's not entirely clear that the cursor is up, ready to searching, and there are a few little changes where there is that kind of a little bit of conflict and perhaps making it ever so slightly less usable than it has been in the past. In the past, these used to not be blue, and they only went blue when you click on them, for example. And so the search goes. But, you know, now, what's highlighted now? If I press enter now, what am I going to change? We've kind of got no clue. So there are a few little tweaks and little... They're not bugs as such, but they're gripes that perhaps some people have, along with the transparency, along with the...
But you can change the blue to grey, can't you?
Yeah, but that makes it... I'll show you what that looks like.
This is a sheet which has multiple options on it. They're all individual. They're not dependent on each other, so it doesn't really matter, I think, which one's highlighted, or even that there isn't a highlight, because they're all individual controls.
So one other thing that we'll just get to on the use of OS 10 before we go into a couple of other features. The red, green, and yellow traffic lights now make much more sense. Green does exactly what you would expect green to do. Green blows up the thing to full screen, so it takes up the whole space. Whereas in the past, green always went to the maximum width for the window or the last size of the window. I never really could work out what the green button did, so I didn't really ever click the green button very much. Now green is our full screen, and if you want to go out full screen, you click green again, which is kind of a little bit counterintuitive. Not red, because that will close it. So green is basically your scaling for full screen, which I think is a much nicer usability tweak. A couple of other little things then that are new. Spotlight is radically different. So you can click on Spotlight up here, but I never do. I always use the command which is right next to the space and just do Command Space. So if you click on it, you get the same effect, which is it just appears in the middle of the screen. A big, bold, bright Spotlight box, which is much better. I just use Command Space and I'm ready to type. Now I use Spotlight to launch pretty much all of my apps. If I want to launch, Word, I will type Word. Sorry, while I'm looking at the screen, and it'll be the first hit, and I click enter, and it launches Word. I use that to launch all of my apps on both of my machines. Whenever it's just Command Space, type whatever it is, and it launches. It works really, really well. As well as that, Spotlight's been made more powerful. So, for example, a nice one is conversions. So, if I want to type in, $100. It straight away says what that is in euros, yen, dollars, Canadian dollars, Swiss francs, or whatever it happens to be. If you want to know, because you've got an old recipe, what what 374 Fahrenheit is, it's 190 degrees C. So it does really nice conversions. I haven't tried all of these, I'm just trying them as we go. Yeah, so shorts tons. There is a slight Americanism here in some of the units, obviously. I'm not sure, but I might want to convert it into pounds or ounces or metric tons, but certainly not shorts tons. I don't know what short ton is. But yeah, so it does unit conversions really, really nicely, and you just type them in as you would go. It also does Wikipedia searches and everything else. So if you were to search for Yosemite, for example, it will find the stuff on the Mac, and it will also do a quick little web search, which it might not.
I think you've used it too much. You just do something you haven't done before.
Yeah, I've not done Yosemite before. What should I search for? Miami. Let's go Miami. Miami Dolphins cheerleader song is the most commonly typed search. Oh no, that's an email.
Wow.
Yeah, so anyway, so this is obviously the danger of live searching. But if you're at home, it works really, really well.
You feel slightly pink, Graham.
There's nothing wrong with Call Me Maybe, it's a good song. So it will continue to search in the same way as it has before, it is just much more powerful. So the Spotlight search is much improved. It's worked really, really well for me whenever I'm searching. Again, you can search for normal, you can search for words within documents and everything else. So if I search for photon, OCR, it will come up with a spec that contains photon and OCR, a PDF. And again, you have the live previews and you can look through them, which is really nice. This is just loading it off the fly. This is the draft specification for the new A levels. It also has summary documents that I've written for various bits and bobs that have the word photon and OCR. So Spotlight, much, much, much improved, works really, really nicely. Any other points on Spotlight before I move on?
Yeah, does it do language translations?
Shouldn't have said that.
Oh.
Yeah. No. Not currently. Not currently. Okay. I think so. There are still a few little limits. It doesn't do everything that you might want to do in, say, Google Translate or using Google as a search engine, but it works really, really nicely. And you do search the web straight away. So if it's not on your Mac, those lists there do include web searches that you can go down and click on, and it will just launch it using your default. Using Bing, I think it searches, doesn't it?
Are there any widgets? Because I use the widget for translating.
So we'll talk about this in a second.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. It's coming up.
One last thing about Spotlight is that you still have the control. You can turn off it searching something. So, for instance, one thing Graham had it come up results of the message. You might decide that you don't want that to happen, so that you can actually turn messages.
So in System Preferences in Spotlight, you can see I basically wanted to search everything because it is my machine.
That is the default.
But I have said don't search. No, I haven't. I did have a folder that was temporary folders, and what I did was I basically copied all my files, and I said don't search this folder because it was just a temporary folder and it had several copies of the same file in. So if I'd search, I'd have 2 results. I only wanted 1. So you can say don't search this. So if I didn't want to search this DDSM temp, I could just put it there, and now any files that are in that DDSM temp folder won't come up. Won't come up in the Spotlight search. So if you want to hide anything away, or you want to have a series of files that you don't need to search for whatever reason, then that's very simple. That's not a new feature in Yosemite. That's an existing Spotlight feature. So the reason that I upgraded is a feature that Apple are pushing called continuity. Continuity is all about your Mac and your iPhone or iPad working together in a number of different ways. Now, what features you get depend on how up-to-date your Mac is, but the main reason I did it is because I use messages quite a lot. And so these are messages, so I'm just going to scroll through them very quickly. The green ones are people with an SMS. So this is our chief technician. This is Google has sent me a verification code. It's now dead, so it's fine. Because I'd have 2-factor authentication, which we'll talk about later. This is a text message, and it's come through, without my phone being connected, it's come through onto my laptop, which is really nice. I can reply to text messages straight from my laptop, because as long as my phone is in range, in the house, on the same Wi-Fi network or in Bluetooth range, it will basically bounce every message that I have every text message I have from my phone straight to my computer. So if I wanted to reply to somebody who hasn't got an iPhone or an iPad, I'm not now limited to iMessage. I can send text messages straight from my Mac to any number that I like. So in contacts, which I can't show you obviously because they're live, I just click on their little name and say send text message. I type it in my computer, hit return. As long as my phone is roughly somewhere nearby, it will actually go through the phone to the mobile network and back through the phone back onto the computer. That works exceptionally well, and it is by far and away my favourite feature of Yosemite.
Slight correction, I think.
Oh, sorry.
It's only the voice side that needs the phone and the computer to be on the same Wi-Fi network.
Oh, okay.
SMS,
Is it
you
Bluetooth?
can
Is
do
it?
it if you have an internet connection.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so the rule. So different continuity features, and there are like a plethora of them, have different system requirements, and yeah. So I'll show you another example. So if our favourite takeaway in Exeter is Minghua Chinese takeaway. So if I want to search for Minghua Chinese takeaway, what I can do, I'm not going to do this, is that the first hit is normally a Google map, or there'll be a Google map over here. Let's search Minghua Exeter.
Put it down, the fifth one down.
Here we go. That phone number now, if I give it a few seconds, the data detectors will detect that that's a phone number, and I can, once it's loaded the page, because again we're going through the phone, so apologies that it's a little bit slow, I get a little drop-down menu and I can ring that straight from my Mac. And I'm not actually ringing from Mac, it's going through the phone, and it does work. There we go, perfect. So I can now call it. I can now call that phone number from my phone and speak to them. So, you know, it starts to ring, I'll start it. It starts to ring, and I'll just cancel before it does. And if you talk through your Mac, through your computer, through your whatever you happen to be using, that is a really great little additional feature. It just makes it much more convenient. Equally, if you're sat at your Mac, and this does freak you out a little bit when it happens, and your phone is on the dining room table, your Mac will ring. If you set it up. So you're sat there working and it will ring. And my mum's done this. She's rung me and I've answered it on the computer and spoken back and geeked her out a little bit and told her how exciting this was. She didn't care. It was about Christmas presents for the kids and the list and everything else. But it works really, really nicely. It means you don't have to go and find your phone. It just bounces from your phone to your computer. It knows you're using your computer, so it will ring. If you don't answer it on the computer, it will then ring on any other iOS device that you have around the place. But there is a kind of meaningful time delay. It does make perfect sense.
Have you got to have an Apple phone to use that?
It's all about the Mac working with, and it's iOS8. So it won't work with iOS 7.
If you haven't got a phone,
it'll work with an iPad. So it'll work with a phone and an iPad.
Make a call?
With a phone and an iPad. You need a phone to make the call. No. Sorry, you need an iPhone to make a call, but you can make a call from your iPad. So if you've got a Wi-Fi iPad, like the one we're giving away in the Christmas raffle, you can make a call from that. I wouldn't, but you could make a call from that and answer a call from that if your phone is, let's say, charging in the next room, and you are sat with your iPad on the dining room table. If your phone rings, your iPad will ring.
So that will come off the credit that you've got on your iPad.
Come off the credit you've got on your phone.
Yeah, fair.
So it's relaying through. It's effectively kind of like.
Will it work if the phone's switched off?
It will not work if the phone's switched off because it's relying on the phone's connection to the mobile phone network.
Which key do you press then when a call comes through? Is it any key or just return?
You get a little box on the top of the screen, and you just it's call or cancel.
Just normal notification.
So normal little notification pops across on the top. Do you want to try this live? Do you want to try this live? Do you want to give me a ring?
Do you have to set it up?
No, but you can turn it
automatically.
Yeah.
Can you turn the devices off? Because at home when that happens, I get 5 devices ringing all at once.
And so this is my next point. It's great until you suddenly realise that everything rings at once. Yes, absolutely, you can turn it off. So on the phone, I'll show you how to do this when I'm doing the phone stuff. But you can say ring with this device, and you can turn it off. Okay. Any other points on continuity then? So sending phone calls, receiving phone calls.
Does it require this Bluetooth 4?
Yes.
It requires Bluetooth not for the phone calls.
Not for the phone.
No, because I can do it. Yeah. So it does not. It needs you to be on the same Wi-Fi network or to be in close proximity to the phone. Right. Some features require Bluetooth 4.
Which one?
So handoff, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Now, because I can't show you handoff using my computer, I have sneakily downloaded a video of someone else showing you handoff. So handoff is another continuity feature, which basically means you start an email on your Mac, or on your phone, and your phone and Mac talk to each other, they know where you are in your email, and you can continue one from the other. So if you start an email on your phone as you're walking in the house or whatever, when you come in, well, I'll let the video explain all.
Hi, I'm Steve Smith, Mac.com. So a couple of days ago, I gave you an overview of OS X Yosemite, and today I'm going to give you a quick look at handoff and also phone calls on the Mac. Let's get started.
So it's that little icon appears and disappears.
Handoff is one of 4 new features Apple is bounding together for what they call continuity, along with SMS, phone calls and instant hotspot, which all begin to work in harmony when your iPhone is in proximity with your Mac. Handoff works by using Bluetooth and running both iOS8 and Yosemite. So, if you have Safari open on your iOS device, for example, a new side pop-up will appear on the dock and allow you to open up the same web page.
Very handy when Mrs. Clements is shopping on the MacBook Pro.
And this does work surprisingly quickly, as you can see when I'm going back and forth between Mail and Safari.
So this is a really
And
nice
what's really
feature.
impressive is how it picks up from where you had left off on your iOS device.
So if you're halfway through a message,
So if you had already begun to write an email and walked up to your Mac, it would remember everything you had already typed, including the contact you had entered, along with the subjects and the message. Even in this first beta, I was surprised how well it worked. Next is phone calls on the Mac.
so this is the bit that I
You can find a phone number online for a store or restaurant, highlight the number, and from there you have the option to call from your iPhone. You can also call from the Contacts app or FaceTime in the same way. And yes, you can answer calls from your iPhone on
So
your
that's the
Mac.
dialog box that pops up.
So that's it for today. What do you think of handoff? Will you be using phone calls on the Mac? Let us know in the comment section.
The only other thing that he doesn't show very well is that the same thing happens the other way round. So you can, if you start an email on your computer and you get called away for whatever, or you need to leave or whatever, when you launch your phone, so if I tell my phone to connect again to the projector, once you launch your phone, there we go. On the lock screen, I don't have one, so I'll just show you what the lock screen looks like. On the lock screen, in the bottom corner down here, there's a little icon. There'll be a little mail icon, which will, if you swipe it up to remove it, to see it, it will launch mail straight away, just like you can with the camera icon. So I'm swiping up and down on the camera icon in the other corner. If you swipe up and down on the mail icon, which appears if you're midway through an email over here, you'll swipe up and it will allow you to continue from where you left off previously on your computer. So that feature is quite nice. I've not used it because I cannot use it. Have anybody else used it so far? It's one of those things that when you see at work, I think it'll be an interesting thing to see how you use it if you use it. I quite like the concept, but a couple of other features like that might be a bit kind of for later use or as things evolve even further. But certainly, when you're looking at web pages from one to the other, when you're using mail, which are the two examples that are often used, because they're the best two examples, you can continue. What you can't do, at the moment anyway, is do it things like songs and movies. So if you're watching a movie on your computer and you pause the movie, it will be great to be able to continue that from the same point on the phone rather than scrubbing through to find the place you were on the phone to watch it. But that's a kind of, if I was guessing, a natural evolution of what's going to happen next. Also with Yosemite, one other thing is Notification Center has got a bit of a tweak. Nothing much at the moment, but you'll be able to put far more widgets and stuff in here. So this is your point about widgets. So I don't use Dashboard anymore for translator widgets. You can add lots and lots of little widgets to the Notification Center to make it that little bit more powerful. I don't have any apps that really use it at the moment, but at the bottom you can see down here there's a little edit, and I can put any app that has a notification widget, I can put it in. So if I want to put any world clock in, for example. I could put the world clock in my notification centre. I can add different clocks, and it just works a bit like kind of the hybrid of Dashboard did in the past. So our notification centre's now got a world clock in it further up. So any app can do this. Any app that you use can do this. So if you
provide the service,
as long as they provide a service.
Evernote does this, right?
Yeah, Evernote does. Wunderlist does, but I don't use it for that kind of thing. And basically, so the Translate app that you were talking about, I would be very surprised if in the future there wasn't some kind of Translate app that doesn't appear on this little sidebar here. This is much more developed on the phone than it is currently on the computer. None of my apps on the computer really, on the phone, sorry, make the same use of it as they do on the computer.
Where do you go to get the additional widgets then?
So at the moment they come with the apps. You need to have the particular app installed. So it's not, you cannot just get a secondary app that's just a widget. At least at the moment you can't.
So anything that provides that, if you click the edit button at the bottom, it will appear in the list. If
it's listed up here.
If it's not in the list, then that particular version of the app is not providing the widget.
Okay. So what Translate app would you recommend then to go in there?
I don't know. So I've used iTranslate before, but that's just on the phone. I don't really use a Translate app on the computer because Google Translate just does such a good job of translating on the fly.
You'll notice there's an App Store button, so you can go to look for apps.
You said the currency one already comes up.
Yeah, currency is already built into Spotlight, so there's no need to. But translation isn't. So this is basically a slightly more powerful way of putting a few bits and bobs in. I'll show you on the phone where there are lots of examples. In fact, I'll show you on the phone now because that would make good sense. So going back to the phone.
So I've reactivated Dashboard for the time being.
Oh, what, for the translation?
Yeah, translation and Doonesbury as well. I can't do that.
So going back to the phone, so this is iOS8, and some of the features that I don't intend really to talk about Yosemite anymore. I think we've pretty much covered everything. It's a new look. There are some features in it which are quite nice, like the continuity in sharing SMS and phone calls, and the first time your Mac rings is quite an experience if you've not had that before. Spotlight is just so much better. There is perhaps a cautionary word of pausing, perhaps if you've got really important apps, and there are some tales of maybe potential issues with upgrading. I haven't heard very many this year, to be perfectly honest. Maybe because there was a big public beta beforehand. So this is iOS 8, and there are a few new features in iOS 8. The first one I'll show you, because it segues in quite nicely, is if I pull down, I get my notification center, and these are lots of different apps I've got installed on the phone that have a kind of little widget they dump in Notification Center. So here's Fantastical, OmniFocus, which is my kind of to-do list, puts a little note in, Evernote, Clips, and a few others. Any app that I've got installed on my phone, if I click the edit button at the bottom, anyone that provides this feator has a little list on the bottom. These are all things I can put into including iTranslate, because I've got iTranslate on my phone. I don't know what that does, but I imagine it's just a simple translation thing. I've not bothered. But any app I've got on the phone that has a kind of plug-in for this automatically appears in this list, and you can stick it in Notification Center if you wish. That will obviously get silly if you put all these in Notification Center, because Notification Center is meant to be a very quick, kind of simple, right, I need to swipe and look really quickly. So you need to decide what information goes in there rather than put everything in there, because otherwise you end up with a massive scrolling list, and you might as well just search for it, launch the app and everything else. So these little plugins that I use are really quite nice. So I don't know why, I quite like having a sky guide to know what time the sun rises and sets, and I just like seeing it. It's a little kind of perhaps physics geeky thing. And the moon is also 75%. So I quite like that. It's just a free thing with Sky Guide. I've left it in there. It works really nicely. The one I use from a power point of view is Fantastical. This is the best plugin so far. So not only does it show you the coloured dots represent the events, what was happening today down the side, you can also click on different days, and it tells you what's happening on different days. In terms of anything you've got in your diary, you can scroll through to different months by clicking on the little arrow on the top, and you can see what's happening when in the calendar. We're big calendar users, and that works really, really nicely. Having that just very quickly in Notification Center, I really like. I want to see what's coming.
Just feeding from the normal calendar then?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's Fantastical's plugin. So my calendar app of choice that's on the bottom is Fantastical rather than Apple Calendar. So Apple Calendar does have, and I'll show you the Apple Calendar version. If I wanted to put the Apple Calendar version in, I can just scroll down to the bottom, click Edit, find the Apple Calendar, here we go, click Plus, and now it appears in the list. I can change its position, so I can change its prominence by grabbing the little grab handle on the right-hand side. So if I put it at the very top, you can see the difference between Fantastical and Apple's calendar version. Apple's calendar version just tells us what's happening today, which is kind of fine if that's what you want, but Fantastical's I just think is just that much better. So obviously I don't bother using the Apple calendar version, so I just simply edit my widgets and remove the calendar version and use Fantastical's instead. A couple of other things. So OmniFocus is my to-do list. So my to-do is, I've got lots of to-dos in OmniFocus. The only one I've put in there for today is to demo OmniFocus and Notification Center. So I scroll down, any to-dos that I've got appear in this list. Wunderlist does this too, but I say I use OmniFocus for my work. Wunderlist is really for my wife. And so yeah, I just click on it and it's done. And that will now remove an update for OmniFocus. I haven't got to launch OmniFocus. I need just, if I want to see what I need to do, I can just pull down Notification Center rather than launching OmniFocus, which is a good app, but it optimizes, look at what the forecast is, work out what I'm supposed to do today. It's just a kind of quicker way, information at a glance, a little snapshot. So that feature I think is really nice. Another feature that's new is keyboards. So there's two new things in keyboards to show you. The first one is predictive text. So I'm just going to make a note. So the keyboard will apparently learn your writing style. So I've not quite seen this yet, but it learns how you communicate with certain contacts.
You mean it hasn't managed to do yours yet?
Quite possibly. But not only that, if you get a text, so you can see I've got 3 words: I, the, I'm, and apparently those are the 3 most common words that I would start a message with at the moment. Oh, sorry. But not only that, if my wife texts me and says, "Would you like, what shall we have for dinner? Shall we have, I don't know, Chinese or Indian?" Those 2 words will be Chinese, Indian, and then something else, which is quite cool. It has a bit of intelligence where it passes the text, it reads the text that comes in, and lets you know, shall we go and see a film tonight? Would you like to see Star Wars or Batman? And it will say Star Wars, Batman in the two links. And I've seen that work, and that works exceptionally well. Yes, no is quite common. If you're asked a question, the 2 words will often be yes, no. So you can reply really, really quickly just by tapping. It also is meant to learn your writing style. So if I tap it then thinks that, the only thing that could make it so much better. Now, obviously, I'm writing nonsense, but the point is, the more you write, some of it is too much, the more you write normally, the more you type normally, the more it knows any stock phrases that you have, any turns of phrase that you have, any ways of replying, and it suggests words that you use frequently. And it works very, very, very well. I regularly now am typing away, so if I type, a word, it will give me a good suggestion, physically sick. It will give me a good suggestion based on what I've used before. So that keyboard is a really nice. You can hide it if you don't want it, but that keyboard, that little feature on the top of the keyboard, is a really nice little addition.
Do you think with the youngsters today, the teenagers, that you would put the word "like" in every other word?
Yeah, I think so. Except there's a couple of other things that we'll talk about with teenagers. When I watch kids doing this, one thing that they really like, so I've got a couple of keyboards installed. So on the bottom corner there's a little globe. So one is a little emoji keyboard, so I can send messages. This is a built-in keyboard, so it's nothing new. But I have also installed this keyboard, which is Swift Key. I want to say Swipe. No, I think it's Swift Key. Swift Key basically, again, is a predictive text thing. One thing that's really nice about Swift Key, it's really clear whether it's capitals or not capitals. Because that Shift key in the Apple keyboard does really annoy me. This is a free download, but you do have to give it access. And it will ask you, can I have access, because I need to do various bits and bobs. So there is a whenever you're involving a new third-party feature like a new keyboard or whatever, there is always a balance of security versus convenience. SwiftKey is a big company. I have no major issues with SwiftKey, but because it's learning my speaking, how I type, it is effectively sending this information up into the cloud so it can store it and process it. If you're not happy with that, then you're not going to want any of these new keyboards that you can install. One thing that SwiftKey does, and this is what the kids do, is that they type in a certain way by swiping their finger across the screen. And you might think that is silly, but I'm not good at this at all, and I watch kids do it, and it is the most amazing thing I have ever seen. So I'm going to do it by scraping my finger across the screen. So I'm going to type, this is typing. Okay, so I'm just going to go, this is typing. I couldn't type that fast. That's quite good, and when you see them do it, that is so much better. It copes, it copes with really long words like... Oh, really long words. Words. They make mistakes. Well, that might be me, to be honest. Really long words like... I don't know, I'm not going to do one. But yeah, because I'll lose track before it goes. But, no. So that is an example of one of the many keyboards you can get, and there are lots of different keyboards you can get for iOS8. Some of them are charged, you just get them on the App Store. They offer lots of different features. Some of them have a keyboard that replaces things with... You can get a keyboard in Klingon, you can get a keyboard that replaces little pictures that you can send to each other, little drawing pictures and everything else. I'm not a great fan, really, of changing my keyboards. I have this one installed just so I can play with this kind of swiping thing, and I think I'm too old. But yeah, there is a nice feature which I thought I'd demonstrate. Anyone else install any other third-party keyboards at this stage? There's one other keyboard that I will mention, which is if you use an app called Text Expander. Text Expander allows you to take small passages of text and expand them into really long things. So, for example, you could just type ADD and it will put in your address. So things that you type in regularly. Text Expander have released a keyboard so that if you type ADD in Text Expander keyboard, it will fill that in with your address. And that's really quite nice, but I haven't demoed it because I don't have it. One of the other extension features, and there are a few extension features, but one of the others is in Photos. So if I go to Photos, I don't have to do anything in particular, but if I find a photo that I'd like to edit, and there was one earlier on that I thought I would do, yeah. So if I want to edit this photo, I can just click Edit in the top corner, and yeah, I need to duplicate to edit for some reason. And I have my normal editing features that are part of Photos. So all the stuff at the bottom I can change crop, I can change brightness, I can do all the kind of normal built-in Apple things. But the little circle with 3 dots in it, this icon represents an extension, represents you can do something else. I've got some apps installed that talk to iPhoto and say, oh look, I can do editing for you if you like. And they just feature in this list. You can populate them by clicking on them more and adding them as you go. But for example, flare effects, all flare effects does is allows you to add effects to your photos without leaving photos. This is a really quite nice little feature. Flare effects is a very simple little photo editing app, but does allow you to produce all the power of flare effects whilst looking through your photos in iPhoto. If you want to do it in a bit more powerful way, Camera Plus is also particularly good. Camera Plus has a much more comprehensive range of editing features, so you can change filters in the same kind of way as we were just talking about, but as well as in filters, I should say at this point, iOS 8.1 is out. iOS 8 is still, I think, a little bit buggy from time to time. That allows you to edit your photos. It allows you to, change the straighten them, to add any kind of tint you want to do them. All of this is you would normally have to launch Camera Plus, find the photo, edit the photo. You don't have to do that anymore because it's all part of this simple little extension button in the bottom corner. So photo extensions are really quite nice. I can, if I wanted to, still go to my photo folder, launch Flare Effects, launch Camera Plus, and add those filters to my photos, kind of how we've done in the past. But you don't need to, as long as the app has that kind of plugin. So a really good photo editing app, which I know we've demonstrated in the past, is Snapseed. Snapseed at the moment don't currently have that plugin. So I have to, if I want to edit anything using Snapseed, I have to launch Snapseed, load the photo.
Can I just point out that for those of you who don't have Camera Plus, it's currently free. It's not very expensive anyway, but if you go to the Apple Store app and scroll down, it's a special offer for nothing, but only for the next 4 days.
Does it only work with iOS 8?
That little demo that I just showed you, because it's an extension, but the app will work.
Will work with iOS 7.
Yeah. Another little extension, and extensions are a massive thing in iOS 8, is this editable share sheet. So you could always, if I go back to notes, you could always share things in. I'll go back to the normal keyboard. You could always share things if you wanted to with your notes. You could always click on one, and the little icon at the bottom allows you to share. Now, as well as the normal services that you've seen in the past, I've now got OmniFocus, Evernote, Wunderlist is on there. All of these I can share with Kane because he's got AirDrop turned on. All of these, flashing photo too. All of these little features make you allow you to do things in a kind of a much quicker way than you could in the past. All you need to do is click on the little more on the side over there, and it will tell you all the apps you've got installed. Do you want to share it with these particular apps? I've turned off Facebook because I'd never use Facebook. It's wasting one of those little icons as far as I'm concerned. And I've also turned off Fantastical because I like to use Fantastical in a certain way. But yeah, so if I wanted to share this particular note that I've written, which obviously makes no sense at all, into Evernote, I can just click Evernote and it will take that and pop up a little share sheet, and it's saving it to my notes folder, click save, and now that's saved into Evernote without me ever having to launch Evernote. If I want to put it in Wunderlist, I can tap it into Wunderlist and it will put it in, Jobs for Emma, and it will continue that text, and it will now appear in the Jobs for Emma. Then I'll be a long nonsensical list, which I won't do. That works in any app where there's a sharing option, but perhaps the best feature of that is in Safari. So here's a BBC webpage. You can see the little share sheet at the bottom. This is the mobile web page. If you click on the share sheet at the bottom, I have all these different ways of sharing it. I can add it to home screen, I can copy this page to Evernote or OmniFocus or tweet it or whatever. But if I want to do a couple of things, if I want to log in, and I pick the BBC deliberately, if I want to log in the top corner, it knows I've allowed Safari to remember my username and password because it's not, it's only the BBC website, it's a low security password and everything else. But if I delete all this, any website that has this a login page, if you click on the share button and you've got one password installed, if you've got a long, complicated password, which is a massive pain to type in on your phone, if I click on the little one password plugin at the very bottom, one password just provide this plugin. If I click on the little one password plugin, it will take me to one password, which I will then unlock with my thumb. It'll then say, here's your BBC login that you want. I will click that, it will say, thank you very much, I'll take you back, and it will pre-populate the fields. That's great, because if you use one password as your password manager, and we talked about this before, having a long, complex password is really important. Having different passwords for different sites is really important. Typing those in on your phone or iPad is sometimes a pain. That one password plugin is awesome. And that's just the tip. This is obviously relatively new. iOS8 is relatively new. There will be many, many more plugins and share sheets and everything else coming in future. But to start with, absolutely, one password is a brilliant little plugin. I can move it and stick it at the front because actually, anytime I want to log in, I want it to be there, and it will just sit in the corner, ready for me to tap whatever website I'm in, and it will pre-populate that password field, which is really nice.
You touched on photographs. Are you going to touch on the photo stream and camera roll and the changes?
No, only because we were going to do this when Photos is out. Okay. So the newest version of iOS 8 now has, so 8.1 has brought back camera roll.
Yeah.
There are a lot of complaints.
It's got photo stream had gone for a bit. So.
Yeah, photo stream is still kind of gone because it's now shared, and I've now kind of got this weird situation where I don't quite know what's going on in any of this. And I don't know if anybody has a particular, I can't visualize. I'm showing lots of photos. I can't visualise what it's meant to be.
If you go back from sharing at the top there, you should see all your albums that are shared. So
you
can click plus and add a new shared sheet album.
Yeah, no, it's the relationship between photo stream and camera roll, and then you go into it and you seem to be getting. It's not as clear cut as it was.
Right.
Yeah, so for example, I think the reason for that is your photos should, when photos released, be basically every photo that you've ever taken on your device. So these photos are not all stored on my phone. A lot of these photos are currently up in iCloud. So these are basically all the photos I've taken are currently in iPhoto. And if I want to load one, it would then download it, a lower resolution version anyway, quite quickly. But yeah, we're going to wait to talk about photos because it's very much in transition, and we've had conversations about this. So yeah, it's a bit of a pain at the moment, I think. And again, it's one of those things where if you don't need to upgrade and photos are really, really important and you can't get your head around quite what's going on, then perhaps it's a reason to pause.
Probably March.
Yeah. A couple of other things just while we're in Safari very quickly. Safari usually gives you the desktop version. Safari normally gives you a mobile version. BBC knows this isn't an iPhone, so it gives me the mobile version of the website, which is okay and works really quite nicely. But on occasion, I want the full version because there's something missing from the mobile version. What you can do now, and this is perhaps a little hidden feature, is if you click on the address bar at the top where it says bbc.co.uk, it thinks, oh, you're going to type in a new one, you can do all your favourites and all that kind of stuff. But if you pull down ever so slightly, look at that. There's request desktop site. So now, basically, the phone will say to the BBC, yeah, I know I'm a mobile phone, but please, I'm a good mobile phone, send me your full desktop version, not the slightly hobbled, slightly crippled mobile version, and it will send you the full desktop version, which is unsurprisingly now taking a long time to download on a phone because it's optimised for a desktop. If you're in a good mobile phone signal area, and you can see I've only got 2 bars, then it works really well and you can get the full version of the website. So there are some times where I've had to try and put in information, and it's only this slow because of where we are. If you were at home, for example, on your Wi-Fi network, it would work, at the same speed as any other web page. So yeah, it would just download the full web page as opposed to the mobile version of the web page. I think that's quite a nice little feature of iOS 8. A couple of other little features. So in settings, in the bottom corner, a few features just to show you. One that was talked about earlier on in iCloud. If you haven't turned on Find My iPhone, I think you should because it allows you to find your iPhone from various bits and bobs. But there's also a new feature which is send last location. If the phone's about to run out of batteries, if the phone's dead and run out of batteries, and you log into your computer and say, where's my phone? It will say, don't know, because it's off. It's turned off, it's run out of batteries, you've lost it. If you click send last location, what the phone will do with its last gasping breaths is it will communicate up to Apple and say, this is where I am, I'm running out of batteries, this is where I am. When you log in to Find My iPhone, it will say where it was when it sent its last gasping breath before running out of batteries. I think that's a cool feature. It's off by default. I don't know why that will be off by default.
I didn't know it's off by default.
It's a privacy thing. So you can turn it off, but I've turned it on. I've not obviously used it yet, but that's a really nice, potentially really nice feature if you're looking to where your phone is. You can also, in settings, go into general, usage, and now you can do battery usage. You can name and shame the apps that are using the most amount of battery. Now there is a bit of an issue here, and in the fact that it says Overcast, that's been using 35% of your battery, that must be a battery hog. Or, I've been listening to podcasts for about 5 hours today, and so that's why it's... So this isn't necessarily a name and shame list. This isn't necessarily a list of, oh, I've got a lot of apps that are using all of my batteries. But if you will look down this and you think to yourself, why is Facebook on here, for example? Why is Facebook... I only launched Facebook once, and it's still taking up 8% of my battery life every day. And the reason I use Facebook as an example is because Facebook did have an issue where it was draining lots of batteries. It shows you which devices, not only that, it shows you for the last 7 days what devices. So unsurprisingly, I listened to a podcast on the way into school, the way home from school, when I'm at home. So Overcast is a commonly used app. Mailbox, Tweetbot, OmniFocus, these are basically all the apps that I use regularly. I'm not concerned about that list at all. If you saw an app in that list that was really quite high up, that you don't use very often, it just might give you an indication that it's hogging some of your battery, draining some of your battery faster than you would like. So that's a really nice little feature, battery usage. You can get really obsessed with battery usage. And one of the worst things you can do if you're wanting to extend your battery life is turn your phone on and see how much battery... I've got percentage turned off. Because what I found was if I turn percentage on, and I can feel it kicking in right now, when that got to 20%, I think to myself, oh, I know 20%, I'll just take it out and have a look. Oh, it's only 19%. Each time I'm turning on the phone, making it communicate up with Apple, sending my location, doing everything else, turn off battery percentage, Okay, if you want battery percentage on when it gets to 20%, then okay, go in and turn it on. But basically, I think you should leave it off. It doesn't help. All it does, certainly for me anyway, is make me more agitated. And the lower it gets, the more I have to check how much I've got left, which means the faster it drains. So I would recommend turning off. Is that just me?
Yes.
No, it's not just me. Thanks, right. It's not just me. There is somebody else who does that.
Graham, Mr. Bean has that problem.
Okay, a couple of other little features. Very quickly, I think you can quick reply to messages. Oh, I've just got rid of a message. Can you text me?
Yes.
So if hang on, this is.
Hang on.
What should we do? Okay, just text me. Hopefully, my laptop won't explode
Okay.
in the process. You can quick reply to messages. So if I get a text from Darren.
Hello.
Got it?
There we go. Yeah, so Star Wars or Batman, although you put in it on the end, that's probably going to confuse it.
I did that on purpose.
Oh no! I wasn't quick enough. If you tap on your message, so if you tap on your,
I'll send that again.
hang on. So here it is. If you tap on the message, so let it pop down again.
Do you want me to send it again?
Yeah, send it again.
Okay. Off it goes.
You can pull it down and reply straight away. And that's really quite nice. It's a quick reply. It hasn't picked up. See, it's gone for either and. So it hasn't. So you know. So.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
And so yeah, you would type it and send it, and that's now a quick. You can do that with emails. You can do that with text messages. That's a really. You've got to be fairly quick, but then it is called quick reply. It's a case of if you get a notification at the top that you want to reply to straight away, then you can reply straight away. It's a quick reply. If the phone is locked, oh, you were too quick. Was that from you? You've got a mischievous look. Do you want to send that again? If the phone is locked, you can do the same thing on the lock screen. If I hang on, it'll wake up.
It's just an essay.
Just a simple word.
Suggested apps.
Oh yeah. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. So there we go. So they're all coming in now. So I can reply straight away by swiping across on the screen. I can delete. I can get rid of it if I don't want to. I don't have to launch the particular app. And so I haven't unlocked my phone. I've replied without even unlocking my phone. So same to Darren, who's sending me pictures of fish. Yeah, you can just reply straight away from the screen. So quick reply is a really nice little feature.
It's also a potential privacy issue.
Of course, yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's a big privacy issue. So someone, we talked about this before with Siri, isn't it? So I can ask Siri whose phone this is, and it will show me all the detail, or who's my wife or whatever. If you want it to. So one last thing before we break. In settings, in general, this is where you manage in phone. Sorry, this is where you manage which devices ring when you want it to ring. In handoff, where's handoff? General. In general, there's a handoff and suggested apps thing. This is where you can, if you don't want those apps to appear on your home screen, you can turn it off for whatever particular reason. So you can turn off any apps. You can turn off any apps in the App Store. That's it. I'm going to do not disturb. It works really nicely, and you can turn it on and off if you don't wish to use it. Same thing with messages. So if you go to messages and iMessage, you can see text forwarding. At the moment, I want it to go to my Mac, nowhere else. So I want it to go to my Mac, but nowhere else, and so it's nice and simple. If I had lots of computers in here, 5 devices, for example, they'd all be listed. I can turn off the ones that I don't want to receive that message. So another feature that works on both Yosemite and iOS8 is Apple have released iCloud Drive, which is basically their online storage suggestion. So you can see on the side, like lots of you I imagine, I use Dropbox for a few bits and bobs. I've also started to use iCloud Drive. iCloud Drive is basically Apple's equivalent of Dropbox. So if you click on iCloud Drive, it will show you any folders you've got on iCloud Drive, anything you've got on your Mac. So for example, I was just editing a Keynote presentation on my phone. I was showing a couple of you that. That sits in our Keynote folder and sits in a particular place in the Keynote folder. It's just there. So it will synchronise between your devices. Again, it's all about getting your phone and your computer and your Mac, to communicate more seamlessly with each other. It doesn't quite have the power of Dropbox at the moment. It's great for an individual. It's great if you want to put your files on iCloud Drive. You can access them from your phone, from your laptop, or wherever. But you can't share them very easily. The great thing about Dropbox is that we've got lots and lots of shared folders that we can share with other groups, other authors, or whatever. And we've got an Examug shared folder and various other bits and bobs that we can share with groups really easily. iCloud Drive doesn't let you share yet, but it's an obvious feature they'll add in some innovative way.
They have to have something to upgrade to.
Well, but it's also, iCloud Drive is quite cheap, and lots of this online storage stuff is quite cheap. We'll do a more comprehensive review, I think, of iCloud Drive and Dropbox again, maybe in our spring cleaning bit and bob as a sugar sink. Shuffle things around a little bit. But iCloud Drive at the moment works really well. I put my general files on iCloud Drive, and I can access them on any of my machines. And it works really well. Any file that I drop in iCloud Drive will appear on my phone and vice versa.
What's the maximum free?
5 gigabytes free, and then 20 gigabytes is 70p a month.
And they do charge you monthly for I've just had notification.
How do you get iCloud Drive out?
It just appears automatically in your sidebar.
It's not appeared on mine yet.
Are you in Yosemite?
No, I'm in Mavericks.
Oh yeah, so no, it's a Yosemite only feature.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it is a upgrade up to Yosemite feature.
Oh, you can.
Are there any other questions about either iOS 8 or iOS 10? iOS 10 Yosemite.
Can I just point out the pricing? I think the sweet spot for iCloud Drive is 200 gigs, and that's $2.99 a month.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's charged. You look at a lot of the other providers, and they'll sting you the better part of £100 for more storage, but actually $2.99 a month is it's loose change really, isn't it?
From home, from Dropbox.
No, Dropbox pricing now. Don't Dropbox just offer a terabyte now?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And how much is that?
I don't know.
Sorry, John did do a big spreadsheet, but the thing is, it's changing very rapidly at the moment because of iCloud Drive and various other players coming online. So we need to do a quick bit of up-to-date research before we give you some correct information.
Dropbox is between 80 and 90 quid, I think,
Yes.
for the terabyte, if not a bit more.
Okay.
I'll make a few comments quickly about iTunes.
Yeah.
The update to iTunes, although it's on Mavericks at the moment, it's iTunes 12, which is on Yosemite. The decorators have been in, but there's still a few stuff in the snagging list. It looks very nice, the paint looks good, but there's a few things that are missing. One of the things you'll find is if you're using your TV shows bit, you'll find that the episodes, the series blobs have gone, and they've put them all in a big blob, which is fine. But I've got 10 series of one thing with 20 in each, and it won't display past 7. So I had to sort of separate them out. So there's a few things like that which you might find. There's a huge amount of comments on the web about the various issues with it. Most of which are not really issues, but some of those are a bit tricky to get round. And the other thing is that, for instance, when you switch between, say, movies, TV shows and music, it always goes to the top. It used to go to the last place you left it. So if you were in the middle somewhere in the TV shows and you switched to movies, maybe you were looking at Star Trek in the TV shows and you wanted to look at the movies there, you'd find, oh bother, I've got to wind all the way down to the middle again.
I think with
So
with,
they
I
will
think,
get fixed, I'm sure.
Well, I think this is the last version of iTunes. I think iTunes 12 is the last version of iTunes, because if you look up here, what you've effectively got are 4 or 5 separate apps.
Yeah, it could be.
Each one has the iTunes Store built in, whereas the iTunes Store used to be its own separate app. If this was a separate music app that just had your music and your streaming and your iTunes Radio, if it ever does come into the UK, that would make sense as a music app. Your movies would fit in a movies app exactly as they are on the phone. If you want to do that handoff halfway between a movie, you would only want to launch the movie app on the phone, or the videos app on your phone, and it'd be the videos app on the computer. I would not place a large amount of money, but I would place a not, if I were gambling, I would suggest that this would, I'll take that back. I would suggest iTunes 12 is the last fully numbered version of iTunes. I don't think there'll be an iTunes 13. I think there'll be
probably 14.
music.
Before
I think there'll be a music, TV shows, movies, and I think they'll spin them out the same as they're spun out on iOS.
That would actually make sense, because if they're going to use the Beats download service and develop that.
If it's into music.
Yeah.
And they call their music app Beats.